Hey Ward, wait, we're running a couple minutes behind. I wanted to give the full 10 minutes. Oh, here we are.
Right.
2:02. Can you hear me?
Yep. I'm ready when you are.
All right. Just a couple housekeeping items. We are tracking the chat. There is a lot going on. I think Simone asked if we could share it. Yes, we will certainly. We won't. We'll distill it. We'll just pull out the good stuff. But we will share that with everyone. And then if you have questions, some are only coming to the hosts and the panelists. So the people that we have monitoring the chat might not see those. So if you have a question and it could be public, just send it to everyone. That way we can hopefully get it answered. So I think with that, we got Mr. Haygood.
Hey, everybody.
Let me see. What are you talking about here, Ward? The
Um,
software certification program. So Ward is the IPAWS engineering branch chief.
Hi, everyone. That's me. Yep. The IPAWS Engineering Branch Chief. And it's my privilege today to tell you about our upcoming program for IPAWS Software Certification and Compliance. Um, to begin, as required by the National Defense Authorization Act of 2020, alert origination software must be compliant of NIST, DHS, and IPAWS standards. Therefore, the program intends to test and certify AOS providers for compliance with these standards. As part of this effort, we research standards and leading practices to develop software requirements. Additionally, IPAWS has set up a certification test environment and the associated development test plan to test AOS providers for certification. Finally, we are developing certification processes to certify AOSPs and continually monitor them in an ongoing basis. Next slide, please. The development of the software certification program has three primary components. It began with the identifying the scope and developing the software requirements, which included leveraging best practices using existing frameworks, the NIST 800-53, for example. And in addition, we conducted interviews, testing, and demonstrations to define AOS risks and critical functions. When we developed and refined the program requirements, in this step, we identified control groups relevant to detecting and preventing risks, and then selected requirements to address the security risks, AOS domains, and their critical functions. From there, we developed test procedures to defining case objectives and setting preconditions, outlining next steps, defining expected results and dependencies, and then ultimately documenting all these test procedures. An extensive development phase helped inform a program that aims to enhance public safety by providing robust, reliable, and compliant alert and warning systems. Next slide, please. IPAWS has begun development on a software certification program for alert origination software as required by the NDA 2020. The alert origination software must be compliant of NIST, DHS, and IPAWS standards. Therefore, the program will test and certify the AOS for compliance of these standards. As part of this effort, the IPAWS team has researched standards and leading practices to develop software requirements. The IPAWS team is working to set up this test environment and develop the test plan to ultimately test the AOS for certification, as well as develop certification processes to certify AOSs and monitor them on a continued basis. The team also regularly will be engaging with AOSPs to gain additional understanding and inform the testing process. The team is planning an AOSP software certification kickoff session to engage with all AOSPs and provide additional information on the software certification requirements ahead of the launch of the actual testing phase scheduled to begin in early January. Next slide again, please. To help inform the changes that the NDAA is requiring, this IPAWS working group was developed and put together and is designed as a forum for key program stakeholders to support IPAWS leadership with feedback, recommendations, and support that will impact the alert and warning ecosystem. In addition, the IPAWS working group members bring forward their professional experience and what they're hearing within their network and their communities, and to help inform IPAWS leadership. And finally, I ask that everybody keep an eye out for communications about the IPAWS certification program. In addition, reach out to us with any questions or ideas to stay involved with the IPAWS as we continue to develop this software certification program and its implementation. The contact information is provided. We have a mailbox that's monitored and continually monitored. So any questions, any concerns whatsoever, feel free to reach out to us. And with that, I thank you.
Ward, so we're a couple minutes ahead. I got questions. I
Good.
didn't see any coming in the chat, but I got questions. So the alert origination software, AOS, we're certifying those companies, right? So like
Yes.
the 30 that are out there, there might even be more than 30 that connect to IPAWS. Everybody has to use one to use IPAWS.
Right.
So is the end goal like you can't use that service with IPAWS unless it's certified? Are we drawing a line there? Or how does that end up?
We have not drawn a line there yet. Like I say,
Mhm.
this is the first time we're ramping up something like this. The goal is to ultimately, um, ultimately provide the certification to any and all providers that want to volunteer, or there'll be an application process. Say, yeah, we would like to be a certified software provider. We've
Mhm.
had great feedback and buy-in through our interviews and our meetings, and ultimately, we'll get a certified product that says yes, you are compliant with FEMA IPAWS, and ultimately the fine tuning of the certification timeline, the continuous monitoring, and subsequent decertification and or recertification scheduling is still in the works to get the fine tuning, right? So we're not at any point here saying if you don't have a certification, you will not be allowed to access IPAWS. That is not going to be the case
Okay.
as it stands, right? So hopefully that answers your question. We shouldn't be scared. It says, oh, wait a minute, I got to get the certification, or I'm not going to be able to use IPAWS.
All right.
Later
Does.
down the line, as we go into later certifications or recertifications, that may change. And the way we foresee it, we have set baseline requirements. But also, if you use the IPAWS interface design guide, there are a lot of what we call best practices or common practices. And as we move forward and technology moves forward, some of these common best practices may be integrated as we move into recertifications, right? And which makes it just more features, more robust. And then ultimately, that will perhaps come down to a case as we develop where you must be certified to connect. But right as it stands now, in the initial stage, we're
No.
not doing it.
All right, two things, and as quick as you can. First, I want to tell Sid. He said which ones are the best ones. That's not something that IPAWS staff talk about. We just check
No
them out
comment.
and see which one works best for you.
Yes.
I'm sure they'll be happy to give you a demo. Uh, Ward,
Yes.
recertification. Would that be a yearly thing, every 2 years, every 5 years? And then,
Tentatively,
um,
tentatively,
go ahead.
certification is intended to begin as once you're fully certified. There's going to be three certification levels. You're fully certified if you met all the requirements as they stand. If during the testing phase you come up with a certain criteria up to a certain percentage, you would be considered interimly certified,
Mm,
right? And that would be something like you have a year to become compliant with the percentage of requirements that you didn't meet, and then ultimately the certification would be a 3 year period, unless there is a major release or update to the software, or in the event of some software providers merging, right? So if we lose some or they become one, then that adds a whole nother element to recertification, right? But other than that, yeah,
all
the
right,
minutia and the
last thing
details
then,
are
Ward.
kind of, yeah.
Is accessibility, right? What about the software itself? Is the accessibility of the software itself going to be considered? And then of course the features with IPAWS.
Um, accessibility with or the accessibility of that software package.
Yes.
Right. Those are all going to be considerations for
Okay.
for the requirements. Yes.
Okay.
Right,
Uh,
we've divided into security requirements, which are mandatory, mandated by NIST and by CISA and stuff like that. But then we've also got the application requirements, and that's your all the details of the interface with the application and how it reacts to the AAs and how the AAs interact with whatever their inputs interact with the IPAWS open interface.
okay.
Um, Ward and Justin, just one quick note. There are some things that are still not carved in stone, right? So there may be some flexibilities that we may add to the questions and responses that we just gave you. We are working on it. We are in conversations and dialogue with our communities, our practitioners, our AOSPs, those that provide the services, and the products. So do tune in. We will be having some more information in the future. Some of these things may change here and there, but the fact is that we will have a certification program nonetheless, and we will let you know when everything's ironed out.